Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is the immigration question and answer session. I'm pleased to introduce Sardar Durrani, who's an attorney at law who works in immigration. He practices law, doing immigration law, but he also has a foundation that does a lot of work with immigration pro bono. And he's a great resource, and I welcome him to Beloit, as well as his 4 children who are here to help out. So we can have question and answer with 5 different people here tonight, which I think will be great. Also, Benji Pantoja, if you don't already know him as a student, he's going to help translate into Spanish. So I will let Benji translate my introduction really quickly, and then we'll get started. Sardar's going to start with some prepared comments, and then we'll open up the floor for questions and answers. And we have Richard Noriega, a student who's going to go around with the microphone to take your questions. We are recording tonight because there are some students who are unable to be here that want to watch the recording. So please use the microphone for your questions so that it shows up on the recording. Benji, that's a long intro. You can shorten it a little bit.
Hola, buenas noches a todos. Como dijo él, voy a traducir a español. Él es un abogado aquí y es una sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Y vamos a primero empezar haciendo comentarios y después vamos a iniciar con unas preguntas.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody. I thought my job was hard, but no. Thank you, Benji. So, little background about myself. I graduated in 1998. Since then, I've been practicing immigration law.
Yo me gradué en 1998 y desde entonces estoy practicando la inmigración.
And in practice, as mentioned, not only I do for-profit, but for pro bono work, I do that also.
No solo hago para profito, sino también para organizaciones que no recolectan dinero.
And in my practice, I see everybody from different religions, from Native Americans to any country, different professions, from farm workers all the way to rocket scientists, everybody, religious workers, everybody in between.
En mi práctica veo muchas diferentes profesiones, desde granjeros hasta científicos.
So a little bit I'm going to talk about, before I take the questions, some background. Now, as you know, it's Department of Homeland Security. So they have different agencies under that. So for example, USCIS, that's the Immigration Service. If you need a benefit, they will give you, they are the ones who will educate those applications. Sorry. So DHS is there, and now under DHS, you have different agencies.
Tenemos diferentes agencias de la inmigración y vamos a ver cuáles son las de ellas.
So when you file an application, USCIS is the one who will approve or deny that application.
Cuando llenamos una aplicación,
But USCIS.
USCIS, no estoy seguro cómo se dice en español.
And if you are coming at the airport, then it's CBP, that's Customs and Border Patrol, who are looking at your green card and letting you in.
Cuando vienen al aeropuerto, ya saben que tienen la patrulla que están mirando su green card, su pasaporte.
And if you are in United States, then it's ICE who is looking at if you have to be removed or you are not legal. So ICE is the one that you are dealing with.
Otra vez no sé la translación a español de ICE, pero esa es la organización que está mirando si puedes permanecer en los Estados Unidos legalmente o no.
Okay. So now the reason I'm talking about that is that if, for example, you have filed Dhaka, and
Si has aplicado por el DACA, por ejemplo,
and now under Dhaka you qualify to get a benefit that means travel document. So when you apply for travel document, even though it's approved by USCIS, but when you are coming in the country, you got to be careful because it's Border Patrol, CBP is looking at it.
ok, puedes ser aprobado por el DACA por una diferente organización, pero cuando entras a los Estados Unidos, otra organización no puede necesariamente aceptar tu DACA.
Couple of things to watch out for, that's a general rule I saw over the years, that if you qualify for a benefit, for example, your brother, he's a citizen, or you have DACA, we still have people who haven't filed for DACA yet. We still see them. So if you qualify, it's always a good idea, just file for that benefit.
A veces es necesario que cada persona individualística califique por su propio DACA, porque hay veces que piensan que porque tu hermano tiene, tú también calificas, pero no es como funciona así.
Because immigration law, it's very date specific. If you miss the deadline, that's it. There is no ifs or buts about it. So it's a good idea. Just file the application. You never know how it's gonna or when it will come in handy.
Hay una fecha específica que tienes que hacer los papeles y esa es la fecha que se tiene que hacer a tiempo.
And also, it's a good idea to file that application anyway, because we have seen that when you combine two different laws, for example, law A gives you, one benefit, and law B gives you a different benefit. But when you combine A and B, it gives you totally different outcome that you cannot achieve with A, B, or C, or D, by on their own.
Es también buena idea aplicar por el DACA y tenemos que tomar en cuenta de que puedes aplicar para un beneficio A, pero si también aplicas para el beneficio B, los dos juntos serían aún mejor.
And a lot of times we see people going to what we call it notary public, who are not attorneys, but they will fill out the forms. The reason I talked about different agencies that you are dealing with at the airport, or different laws, how they, if you combine them, how they're coming into effect. So notary public cannot analyze that and let you know you qualify for another benefit. So if you are talking to an attorney, even for DACA, it's important, let them fill it out, because your parents may have filed some application and he can tell you that you qualify for another benefit.
Es muy importante dejar que el abogado llene la aplicación para el DACA porque hay cosas que uno se puede dar cuenta que puedes calificar para otros beneficios aparte de lo que estás aplicando ya.
Or my own clients, I haven't seen them for a while, and then suddenly they show up, only to find out they were beaten up. And one client I still remember, he lost one eye, he was beaten up that bad. He was in deportation, and I had told him that there is nothing, I'm sorry, that I can do. But
Él tuvo un cliente que
one eye.
él perdió un ojo y él iba a ser deportado.
But when I saw him, he told me he still thought that he doesn't qualify for anything, but now, because now he qualified for U visa because he was a victim of a crime.
Y porque fue víctima de un crimen porque ya no tenía el ojo, ahora pudo calificar por otro beneficio diferente.
So it's a good idea to deal with an attorney, because you never know, what information will, benefit you, how handy will come in. And
Es buena idea todo el tiempo tratar con un abogado porque no sabes a lo que te va a referir. No solo tenemos el DACA, pero como otros beneficios que puede referirte a él.
so, having said that, if your parents have filed an application, for example, somebody filed an application for your mom before April 30th, 2001.
Si tus padres han llenado una aplicación antes de abril 30, 2001,
And still today, you can take benefit of that application if you were included in that application, even though it was only filed, nobody followed up on it. You are grandfathered.
hoy en día puedes aprovechar esa aplicación que se llenó en el 2001.
And if you are talking to an attorney, it doesn't matter you have those documents or not. We can, under Freedom of Information Act, we can get a copy of those documents, what was filed, and we have done that. Doesn't matter when it was, filed. It could be, 1990, 2000, or any time.
Y si no tienen una copia de esos documentos porque ya los llenaron hace mucho tiempo, un abogado puede encontrar esos documentos, esos papeles.
Now, sometime, there is a question, okay, I'm not legal, what rights do I have? So basically, you have the due process.
A veces se preguntan a sí mismos, ¿soy legal? ¿Qué leyes o qué derechos tengo yo?
So that means that they have to, you will be put in the deportation proceedings, you will be facing a judge that why, there will be a proceeding that why you should not be removed from United States.
Y si estás en una situación donde eres ilegal, de todos modos tienes que ver a un juez y vas a ser juzgado.
So in the beginning, sometime, like in the gentleman I was talking about, that in the beginning, we didn't know what to do. And then during the course, the tragedy happened where he was beaten up and he had lost the eye. Now, based on the U visa, now he had a remedy, relief coming to him.
Ahora volvemos a hablar del hombre que perdió el ojo y porque él perdió el ojo, ahora pudo aplicar para una visa porque fue el crimen del ojo.
So also in Dhaka, there is you can file for advance parole. That means travel document. So you are here, you came to United States without a visa, then you filed DACA application. Now if you marry a United States citizen or somebody files a green card application, since you did not enter legally, you have to go outside the country to get your permanent residence.
Si llegaste a los Estados Unidos ilegalmente, pero ahora vas a aplicar por el DACA, o te has casado con una persona que es ciudadana de los Estados Unidos, para el proceso de aplicar tienes que regresar a México.
But if you take the travel document, you travel outside the country, there's conditions who qualify, you travel out and you got to talk to an attorney making sure that you don't have any negative in your background, that you are coming back in. Once you come back in, now you are legally entered, legally.
Después de que hayas regresado, vas a seguir hablando con tu abogado y vas a ver que no haya nada malo del otro lado, y van a arreglar todo para que puedas regresar legalmente a los Estados Unidos.
So you can file the green card application in United States and you can get the green card in United States. Compared to if you do not travel, now you have to do processing overseas and it can take more than a year.
Y de este proceso permite que puedas tener tu visa en los Estados Unidos y hacer la aplicación de la visa en los Estados Unidos.
So earlier I was talking about, different agencies at the airport, why talk to an attorney? Now you can see that, so we can plan it out for the client when they will get the DACA approved, when they will leave the country, can they leave the country, what's in their background, that making sure that they're coming back also. So all these things can be planned out.
Todo puede ser planeado con tiempo, como las agencias que trabajan en los aeropuertos, ver cuándo te vas a ir y cuándo vas a regresar.
And the reason is that doesn't matter politically what's happening. And we saw that, it's not now that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Same thing with President Obama too. He had promised initially we're going to do immigration reform in the first year. It didn't happen. Okay, now we're going to do it. And we saw that nothing happened. So
no importa lo que esté pasando políticamente hablando, como en las noticias, cuando Barack Obama prometió cambios en la reforma migratoria, es lo mismo que está pasando ahorita, hoy en día, con nuestro nuevo presidente.
So if you are, planning, so it doesn't matter outside, that's beyond your control, whatever is happening. So in your control, what is there, you are, making sure that you're taking advantage of all those things.
Pero en tu propio control, tú te quieres asegurar que estés tomando ventaja de todos los beneficios que puedes obtener.
With saying that, I will take the questions, please.
Aún dicho eso, ¿alguien tiene alguna pregunta?
You talked about a pathway after knowing that this person came in illegally, right? But if the person had entrance, had legal entrance, as in like a tourist visa or whatever, can that person still get a green card from the U.S. and apply from the U.S.?
Yes, as long as you took a legal entry and there's a proof of it, yes, then you can go move to permanent residency. Yes, you can do that. And that's why I was talking about DACA. Usually they came without a visa, so use that travel document to gain that legal entry.
Él preguntó que si puedes obtener una visa después de que has entrado a los Estados Unidos ilegalmente, y la respuesta es sí.
Anybody else? Now, go ahead.
I've been doing research online for people receiving DACA, and the advice that I'm seeing is that if you are not currently receiving DACA, even though you're eligible, you probably should not apply, because there's an expectation that with the new administration in January that it'll be ended, and that people who are receiving DACA are encouraged to reapply, to renew if they're coming up with if their eligibility is coming to an end.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last part, that if their DACA is expiring, they should not renew it?
That they should. That's what I'm seeing online, recommended,
Right.
but I'd like to hear your thoughts
Right.
on that. Maybe we could let Benji say this question
please.
first.
Él está preguntando que si por la nueva administración que va a tomar la presidencia en este enero, que si es buena idea reaplicar por el DACA o en primer lugar aplicar.
With that, over the years, what we have seen, that what experience has been, if you qualify for any benefit, it's better to file it, put it underneath, because if you miss it, then you are left out completely.
Si calificas por un beneficio, es mejor calificar Porque si ya se pasa la fecha para aplicar y ya después de que se pasa la fecha ya no puedes obtener ese beneficio, eso es mejor aplicar.
So if you qualify and you're thinking maybe it will hurt you negatively, it may, but it's always good idea to just file it whatever you qualify for. Because usually what they will do, they will say, okay, whoever filed it qualified, we're gonna leave them alone. But everybody else who hasn't filed it or don't qualify, we're gonna leave them out completely. That's how it usually has been.
Puedes aplicar para todo lo que califiques, es mejor que hagas eso, él recomienda que hagas eso, porque si no calificas para nada, van a dejar que esas personas, ellas fueron las primeras que van a salir del país. Sí.
And in 2001, we call it 245I, that law. As long as you had filed an application under that law, doesn't matter, even it wasn't approved, even today you can take advantage of that law. And that means you don't need to go outside the country, you can pay $1,000 fine and you can get the green card in the United States, and your employer can file the application too. So when you look at it, go ahead.
Está dando ejemplo de en el 2001 cuando pasó una ley, y hay personas que aplicaron en el 2001 y todavía no han recibido nada, si fueron aceptados o no su aplicación, pero todavía puedes permanecer en el país porque aplicaste en el 2001.
So it's always a good idea to take advantage what you can, you know. Otherwise, you know, it's hard to say that don't do it, you know, it's going to be negative or anything.
Es mejor que lo hagas a que no hagas nada en términos de aplicar.
And it's hard to predict, you know, very hard to predict. And over the years, I'll tell you the truth, you know, because when, for example, President Obama does it, and I attend the DHS meetings, I'll ask them, you know, what's going on? They're like, we don't know ourselves what's going on or where it's going to lead. So even the people who are involved with it, they don't know how it's going to pan out, what will work, what won't work, you know, how much opposition they're going to get, who will join them and all that. So, you know, it gets to be up in the air till the last minute. Then we see that, oh, this is how it's going to be, this is what's going to be. And good
Es muy difícil predecir lo que va a pasar en términos de las leyes de inmigración que pasan o que no pasan, así que muchas personas ni siquiera saben lo que puede pasar. Puede pasar algo positivo o negativo.
And we saw that with DAPA. That's, you know, for the parents, just like Dhaka, you know, just a day before it was supposed to go in effect, you know, there was a lawsuit that was filed, and it's up in the courts, you know, right now being litigated.
Es lo que pasó con la aplicación de DAPA, que un día antes de que fuera la finalización para aplicar, todo se terminó.
And as lawyers, we thought, okay, nobody has filed the lawsuit. Tomorrow it's going to effect. We didn't think that it's going to be filed at the last minute, but it was filed. You know, we were surprised with that. Oh, the DAPA. So they filed the lawsuit a day before, and we didn't think, you know, they haven't filed it yet. Why would somebody file it at the last minute?
Oh.
And there was a lawsuit filed at the last minute.
Que hubo muchas personas que aplicaron en el último día para aplicar.
So, you know, so immigration law, it's very different than family law or criminal law. Usually it goes forward in time. Immigration law, if they're gonna say that, okay, if you committed a crime, for example, DUI, that's a deportable crime. If they pass that, usually they're passing going back in time, not forward in time. So maybe in 2000 you had a DUI, first DUI, but now you are looking, you know, you are in trouble.
Las leyes de inmigración muy diferentes a las leyes como por ejemplo si cometen un crimen, como por ejemplo las leyes de inmigración pueden cambiar muy repetidamente, como si recibieron un DUI en el 2001, todavía permanecen en su récord.
So we were talking about it earlier, talking to an attorney on a regular basis. So a lot of permanent residents, before, you know, they had committed a crime, they came back and forth, never had a problem, but now suddenly they show up at the airport and they said, we are taking you into custody, and now you are being referred to the Immigration Deportation Court.
Cuando cometieron ese crimen del DUI, no han tenido ningún problema en los Estados Unidos, pero ahora que aplicaron y quieren regresar al país, es cuando los problemas vienen.
So when the immigration law said this crime is a deportable crime, it goes back in time, different than the other laws.
Son muy diferentes a las otras leyes porque ahora que tú quieres regresar al país, ya después de que hayas hecho la aplicación, es cuando te afecta.
So So all these things, that when you are coming in, who is at the border looking at it, even though your advance parole may be approved by USCIS, but actually it's CBP who is looking at it, and they don't have any access to your file to look at the records. So if there is an issue or anything, then now you got a problem at the border, even though you may think, oh, I never had any problems, USCIS filed, even though they approved my advance parole for travel.
Puede ser aprobado por una de las agencias de inmigración, pero la otra te puede desaprobar y no te puede permitir regresar por cualquier razón, como otra vez la del DUI.
So now when the times are tough, so at that point, what you need to do, you become creative. You go back in time, was there anything filed for your parents, all those applications, and I get surprised. Like I said, I deal with so many people. One time I had a client.
En ese momento lo que puedes hacer es regresar a tiempo y ver si como una vez tus padres han aplicado.
A couple came in the office and they said, we are not legal, but we just want to talk to you just in case something happens, what my options are.
Una pareja llegó a su oficina, ellos eran ilegales, pero querían ver lo que pasaba. Nomás vinieron a hablar con él.
So I found out, talked about his family. He said, and found out that his father was a permanent resident. There was nobody else who was legal in his family.
Él se dio cuenta de que el padre de una de las parejas era residente permanente de los Estados Unidos, nadie más, o solo el padre.
And he had brothers and sisters, same age, elders like him.
Y él tenía hermanos y hermanas de la misma edad de él.
So I told him, nobody ever filed a petition for you. There is, if they, put you in removal, we may not be able to help you with anything.
Y si nadie hace la petición por ti, no podré ayudarte tal vez.
But then it just happened that a few months later, ICE picked him up from his work.
Y después, unos meses después, ICE lo levantó de su trabajo.
This time, his brother came with his wife to the office.
Esta vez su hermano vino con su esposa a la oficina.
And as an attorney, we, each time we deal with it, we go in detail. Again, I asked them the same questions, his brother,
Y como abogado, él otra vez hace el proceso de cuestionar con mucho detalle.
But this time, when I asked his brother, your father is a permanent resident, for years, and I'm going back in 90s, did he ever file a petition for anybody?
Y esta vez, cuando él le preguntó al hermano que si el padre alguna vez había llenado la aplicación para uno de sus hijos.
And he said, oh yeah, he filed it in the 90s. I almost fell out of my chair. I said, really? I talked to him and he said no.
Y el hermano contestó que sí. La persona que estaba ahorita en la cárcel no sabía, pero el hermano sabía que el padre llenó una aplicación en los 90.
And I said, if you can bring me a copy of it, the approval notice. He said, I don't know if I can do it now because my father fell and he's in the hospital right now.
Su padre estaba en el hospital, pero el abogado le pidió por una copia de ese documento.
Lo and behold, his luck, the client's luck, he talked to the father, went to his home, and he found the application. That was filed in 90s, and he brought the approval notice.
Y él encontró la aplicación que era del 1990 y la trajo y fue aprobada.
And lucky, there is a waiting period, and since it was filed so long ago, it was over. So right now we can file the application. That client was out within a, few weeks.
Y el cliente salió de la cárcel después de pocas semanas porque la aplicación había sido ya aprobada.
So as I was talking about it earlier, that it's important what is in your background. Talk to an attorney ahead of time. He was lucky that his brother came in this time who knew. He did not know that father filed a petition for him because you don't need the beneficiary signature. It's only the petitioner who signs it.
Es muy importante las cosas que están en su historial, como puedes no saber que una persona ya llenó la aplicación por ti o esas cosas, pero es importante hablar con un abogado.
So if you can be, get proactive, that is really nice. Another client who's a nurse.
Otro cliente que es una enfermera.
And her mom told her she was born in New Jersey.
Su madre le dijo que nació en New Jersey.
Till she lost a social security card and she had to get it. That's when she found out that she can't find the birth certificate.
Ella perdió su seguro social y cuando estaba buscando su certificado de nacimiento no lo pudo encontrar.
And the mom finally ordered up that she's not legal. She was brought in when she was a baby.
Y la madre confesó que la hija había sido traída ilegalmente.
And since the mother wasn't cooperative, we did a Freedom of Information Act, and we found out, yes, there was a petition filed when she was a baby. And based on that, now, since she came here without a visa, but since there was application filed, now she was married to US citizen, she can get the permanent residence immediately.
Pero el abogado se dio cuenta de que cuando la niña era bebé hubo una aplicación llenada para ella y ahora que ya estaba grande y se casó además con una persona ciudadana de los Estados Unidos, pudo ser aceptada y aprobada.
So, it's a good idea if you can get proactive. That will, may not help everybody, but we have seen and we get surprised, the outcome has come.
Es buena idea ser proactivo, nunca sabes lo que puede pasar.
Go ahead, please.
Thanks. Good evening. I've been reading a lot about the idea of sanctuary cities and sanctuary universities, sanctuary streets. And I don't know if you have any sort of background in that, but I'm wondering what the legal aspect of that is. So with all the speculation of what might happen in the new administration with possible deportations or the reversal of Dhaka, which is the deferred action for, deferred action for early childhood arrivals. I'm probably getting that wrong. But if you have any information in terms of how does that work? How does a sanctuary city or a sanctuary college work?
Ella está preguntando de que cómo funcionan las ciudades de santuario y en qué beneficios o cómo van a funcionar después de que la nueva administración esté en...
Now, that part, I don't get involved as the activist. Actually, I stand back, and when there's a trouble, that's when I step in. Somebody's being removed or something, that's where I come in. I let them do, the activism part and all that. So,
él no está involucrado con las ciudades de santuario, él solo es un abogado y cuando alguien va a ser deportado, ese es cuando él viene y hace su trabajo.
So you got to be careful if you are arrested, that can affect you negatively.
Tienes que tener cuidado si eres arrestado, eso te puede afectar negativamente.
And immigration law is different. If you are marrying a US citizen, how your arrest going to affect you, that's totally different than if you are getting deported and you are filing your green card application based on you have been here 10 years and you have US citizen who will have the hardship if you are removed.
Las leyes de inmigración no son muy diferentes. Por ejemplo, si eres ilegal y eres arrestado, te va a afectar diferente a comparación de una persona que es residente de los Estados Unidos.
So, to answer that, if you don't have any options, you take that route, okay, but there may be other options, like I said, even if, immigration take you in custody. Immigration law, like other laws, they make sense, you can see that, oh yeah. Immigration law, it would not make sense.
Él dice que las leyes de inmigración no hacen sentido, pero que hay muchos caminos que una persona puede tomar.
So, for example, if you are here without a visa, you have a family, or and you want to file for your permanent residence, you cannot do that.
Por ejemplo, si estás aquí, tienes tu familia, tienes una visa y quieres aplicar para tu residencia permanente, ¿no puedes hacer eso?
But the same family who has USC kids or USC or permanent resident parents,
pero la misma familia que tiene hijos ciudadanos o que tiene un familiar que es residente de los Estados Unidos.
So without any immigration involvement, that means they are not in deportation or anything, we can't do anything.
Pero en términos de leyes de inmigración, a ellos no les va a afectar si son residentes.
But if they are put in deportation, now they can file for their permanent residence.
Pero si son puestos en deportación, ahora es cuando pueden las otras personas que son ilegales aplicar por su residencia.
As long as they can prove they have been here for 10 years.
Tienen que probar que han estado aquí por 10 años.
No criminal conviction.
Sin ningún récord criminal.
It's going to be a hardship on a USC, children, spouse, or parents, either one. It will be a hardship on USC or permanent resident spouse, children, or parents. Hardship, it's going to be hard.
Que puede ser difícil para su esposa o esposa y sus hijos, pero es un proceso que tiene que hacer.
So, for example, one of the children has, seizures, some medical issue.
Como por ejemplo, uno de los hijos puede tener un problema médico.
So then you can, get your permanent residence.
Y, y después de eso puedes tener tu residencia permanente.
So there are different things, that can be done based on your background and facts.
Hay diferentes cosas que se pueden hacer dependiendo de tu historial.
Have you ever had I guess a client that's turned 30 and was on the DACA? Because I read that the DACA, you can't apply for it after 30 years old. Is that how?
Él está preguntando que si puedes aplicar por la DACA después de que hayas cumplido 30 años de edad.
In immigration law, you have to satisfy all the conditions. And, every immigration attorney would have come across where even one day matters, even one day, and we have seen that.
En las leyes de migración tienes que satisfacer todos los requisitos y está hablando de un día de diferencia.
So at the time of filing, if you are not there, even by one day, you don't qualify.
So you have to be 30 or you can.
Whatever the date is, it has to be that date, before that,
Oh,
I'm asking, like, does the DACA expire, or do DACA benefits expire past the age of 30?
Usually it's for the ones, as long as you have filed earlier, then
see.
you qualify.
Okay.
ok, si has aplicado por el DACA antes de que cumplas 30 años, entonces estás bien.
I wanted to find out if you have any idea how the changing administration would impact people's abilities to get visas into the United States. And I ask, that's my main question for you. I ask specifically because I'm currently on an H-1B visa approved by the USCIS, but my visa and my passport is expired. And so I'm debating on whether to go home and have to go through that visa process and still be able to come back.
Ella está preguntando que si la nueva administración va a afectar el proceso de aplicar por una visa nueva.
Yeah, just yesterday, one of the clients, they stayed in for the extension. They said, let's do it over here because I don't need to travel. But the one other person went back about a week ago, and now they are saying everything has been, slowed down at the consulates. So yes, politics do affect consulate processings. But, go ahead.
O como hay personas que se quedan aquí y aplican por la visa aquí en los Estados Unidos, o hay personas que regresan y hacen la aplicación otra vez de fuera del país.
But you can try to see if you can process it in Canada.
Él recomienda que puedes ver si puedes procesar la aplicación en Canadá.
Make an appointment and all that, and do it, and then come back.
Ir a Canadá, hacer una cita y luego regresar.
So I'm sitting here thinking about what anybody could do. If I had a chance to talk to one of our state senators, what would help you or help people that work with you? What could we ask could change that would make it be better?
Él está preguntando que si puede hablar con uno de los senadores aquí del país, qué puede cambiar y qué puede ser mejor.
And I do that time to time. It's simple things.